741. News Talk, Saga 960, Raw Mike Richards. Steve Dangle has a book. This team is ruining my life, but I love them. He'll be joining us in seconds. First, something to believe in. Do you believe? Well, we'll find out next.
Well, I see them on the TV, just another Saturday night, sitting with my family, cheering for the blue and the white. We may not win the cup this year, but damn, we're gonna try, yeah.
Got it in front, they score! They score! Austin Matthews!
46 years
Yes, actually, it's been a little a little longer than that. And someone who would know and feel that pain, apparently, is someone who's written this book, as his life is the Toronto Maple Leafs. And we go to Steve Dangle. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Do you want to hear the weirdest start to probably any interview you've ever done?
Hit me.
Our wives work together.
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
I didn't know. I said, "What are you talking about?" And then that's what Linda told me. That's crazy.
I think the weirdest part of it is they're molding the minds of the future.
Yeah, well, that's where she has a huge separation from me, Steve. That's where she's on her own, because I'm not going to help. But look, thanks so much for joining us. I know you're a little under the weather, but I assume this has nothing to do with the pressure that a lot of Leaf fans probably feel this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I just got sick because Toronto's, disgusting and just pestering with germs. But you know what? I was down on the Leafs earlier in the summer. The more I think about this team, the more optimistic I am for this upcoming season.
Okay, so tell us why. What has happened to you that's going to change your mind, that thinks that maybe this might be a better season than maybe you originally thought at the beginning of the summer?
Well, there's still the bottom pairing concerns me big time. The back of goaltending situation's a little bit strange, but I was talking to my friend. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah. Okay.
I was talking to my friend Jesse Blake on the podcast, and he's like, "Well, that's not exactly going to make or break your season, is it? Like, if your bottom pairing isn't that great, well, most teams don't have a great bottom pairing. If your backup goalie's not that great, well, I mean, they're not even going to be playing in most of the games. So the Leaf starter is good. Their top pair is the best it's been in years and years. The Leafs haven't had a right-handed shot defenseman with the talent of Tyson Barrie in literally over a decade. And up front, all their talent's locked in. Their top nine is locked in for the foreseeable future. And I'm pretending that Mitch Marner is a member of that group, so I think they'll be fine.
Well, the one thing that, and you talk about the back. If Michael Neuwirth is healthy, then I think they're in a pretty good situation with their backup. That I'm not hating. The one thing that is unnerving to me, and has been since they sort of, if you look at the chassis of the team, if you look and you compare it to those that do well in the playoffs, the only thing, Steve, that always makes me not believe that somehow that size and grit and playing sort of, as I call it, big boy hockey, when you start getting into the May and latter, the early part of June, if you want to play that, is there just, I don't know how much pushback there is. I don't know how, as they would say in the business, sort of heavy on the puck. I don't know how they change that, because you need to have that when you start playing in April and May.
I totally agree with you, but the thing with the Boston Bruins is I think it always comes back to Boston. You see how I just automatically went to them? But the thing with the Boston Bruins, and watching them play 4 rounds of hockey, they were a bunch of little guys playing big boy hockey. I mean, they had Sean Corrali, who is a pretty big guy there, depth forward for them. Zdeno Chara is Frankenstein. But Zdeno Chara was a liability.
Yeah, hugely.
Them.
Yeah, I agree.
He wasn't good.
Yeah.
He's past his best. For me, it was guys like Marchand, DeBrusque, Bergeron has always played a tough game for such a skilled guy. Charlie McAvoy is a pesky, unpleasant person to play against. And Torrey Krug, I don't know if any of the guys I mentioned are over 6 foot or over 6'1" or something like that. So to me, the Leafs didn't get beat by the Bruins last year because of a lack of toughness. I just think Boston was a really good team, and the Leafs got completely mismanaged. But like I said, it's not necessarily the size that matters. It's a mindset. I think after this group has lost in 3 consecutive years, to some of them to start their careers, at least the most important ones, Matthews, Nylander, Marner, they're getting a little sick of it. And I think if they watch the game tape, they'll know what they're missing heading into this year's playoffs.
We're in conversation with Steve Dangle here on Newstalk Saga 960, Ralmik Richards, and you bring up a really good point, Steve, which is, so playing heavy on the puck, sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a frame that's 6'4" and 210 pounds. It's that grit. It's that, as you put it, the ability to be incredibly unpleasant to play. Is that something this team can do? Because you also, too, alluded to the management of the team. And sometimes I take a look at, the coach's resume and what he does well with and who his current roster is. And I wonder, too, if that's a fit. Are they both communicating? Are they all on the same page? Because sometimes I feel that they're not.
Well, yeah. So I'm not always convinced that they're on the same page. I've had a lot of people go, well, if they lose in the first round again this year, Babcock's done. Buddy, if it doesn't look like they're going to advance past the first round, he's gone a lot sooner than at the end of the season. There's no way he makes it to the end of the season if they're not seeing eye to eye. Because, in my opinion, you're just waiting too long. Well, you're going to waste another season of some of these guys on cheap contracts, or it's just wasting a season in general is a terrible idea. So that's something to look for this upcoming season, because if this team looks like it's going to end up in the exact same place come Christmas time, someone's going to get a lump of coal.
Steve, so what's successful to you, and I guess maybe to tie it into your point here, for Babcock to remain, so how far do they have to go for that to happen?
Well, they don't necessarily have to get more points in the regular season. They just got to look good. They just got to look like a playoff-ready team. There was a game that they won in, it was either February or March, when they were going through all those terrible injuries. And I was more frustrated that they won than anything else. It was that comeback win against the Flyers where they were down, 5-2 or something like that. They roared back, looked like they were going to win 7-5. And then JVR scores for a hat-trick goal to make it 7-6. And I was just like, geez, you're not going to be winning games in the playoffs 7-6, not more than once out of 25 games. There might be one game to get out of hand. So I just want to – there were so many times this past season where the Leafs did a decent job of preventing the puck from getting into their own zone. But once it got there, it was there to stay.
Yeah.
So if they can show me a defensive improvement, if they can show me an ability to have some snarl in front of their own net, not allow those cross-crease passes, and get the bloody puck out, they'll be fine. They can score. They'll score no problem.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, the book is called This Team is Ruining My Life, But I Love Them. You've made a career, I wouldn't say obsessing about them, but you're kind of tied to them. And I'm just curious, so what are people going to find out when they read this book? What is the one thing about Steve Dangle they're going to get from this? And I'm assuming persistence might be part of it. Well,
I would say obsession is part of it for sure. Yeah, it's a hockey book that's not really about a hockey book. I've been making videos after every Leafs game, putting them up on YouTube for 12 full seasons. I was 19 when I started. I'm 31 now, and now I work at Sportsnet. I'm going to be on the radio today, which is not something I ever thought I'd be doing, when I was getting Bob McCowan's tea order as an intern. So there's a little bit of hockey sprinkled in, but I've been getting a lot of questions from like broadcasting students and stuff like that. How does a guy who never even played hockey growing up, sort of get to this position? And I think there's the problem with a lot of YouTubers, I think, is especially the big ones. They're like genuinely terrible people, and so I wanted to sort of be on the side of the show kids the way of the Jedi and not the Sith. And it's not necessarily overnight success. It's sometimes it's a long slog. And if you're willing to do that, here's some advice.
I don't think I've ever heard it quite put that way, but I think it was really cool the way that you described it. And you know what? And good for you, Steve, because look, this is not the easiest business to get into. It is. I mean, there are more ways to do it, as you know. That's just one more medium that people want to find their way. But I think unless you have a real love for it, unless that passion is like truly real, I think you can tell those that are fake, those that really aren't that into what they're doing. They're just hoping that they get a monetary break. For you, I don't think it was that at all. I think that you have legitimately shown, a generation of kids, of people that want to be professionals that, you know what, at least if you're true to yourself and at least if you're sincere about it, whether it sounds the way that other people sound, whether it looks differently, and it does from an appearance way look different. Even the editing style that you use is different. But I think you were true to yourself, and I think the only way to make it in this business is if you do that, is if you can look at it at the end of the day, even if you don't make it work per se in terms of a profession or monetarily, at least you look at your work and go, at least that's representative of me.
Yeah, at least I'm making good stuff. And kids can be sort of impatient or impressionable sometimes, but I think you got to give kids credit. Like, they're really media literate these days, and yeah, if you're being phony, they'll see right through that.
Yeah.
So if you're genuinely having fun making the stuff that you want to make, it's infectious, and who doesn't want to watch someone having fun? So people will join in.
Or in your case, sometimes tortured. I mean, that's fun.
Or torture. Yeah. You know what? The first 9 seasons of me making videos was not fun because, man, those teams stunk.
Yeah.
But, sometimes it's cathartic. And, in my case, I'm making it sound like I'm this positivity lifestyle guru. No, there were a lot of people, like I get messages from guys all the time going, hey, I showed my girlfriend your videos just to show her I'm not that crazy. Believe me, sometimes they make me feel that way, man.
Now, what about your parents? Are they thinking, what are you doing in that room? What's wrong with Steve? Why can't he be normal? What is happening with our what's with our boy?
You know what? They were always pretty trusting, and thank goodness. They could have kiboshed it. Thankfully, they didn't. I never made videos when they were asleep or whatever. But that's why when I moved into my own place, I think that was during my 7th season of making videos. That's when everything sort of went nuts, because I had my own sort of domain, and I've mostly soundproofed it so I don't bug my wife too much, and I'm able to just go completely ballistic. But my parents, they were involved, during school, and I did an unpaid internship, and there's a lot of positive and also negative views on that, especially these days. And they were always very worried and asked a lot of questions to make sure I wasn't getting taken advantage of. But they saw that it was something I loved and something I was taking serious. So they never kiboshed that. So I got to thank them for that.
Yeah, that's when you're thankful that your parents do actually understand. And look, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day. As I said, I know that you're a little under the weather, and you certainly have a busy schedule, probably getting back at it with Rogers Sportsnet. So really nice catching up with you, finally talking to you. I think that's really great. I think what you've done is, to me, it's just a great reflection on someone who just refuses to give up, wanted to get to a certain level, and if it supersedes that, good, because I'll tell you what, my friend, you're deserving of everything that comes your way.
Well, thank you very much, man. Thanks for having me on the show. And hopefully we don't drive our wives too crazy.
Yeah, hopefully. Take care, Steve.
Take care.
That is Steve Dangle. The book is called This Team is Ruining My Life, But I Love Them. Forward by Jeff Merrick. Again, one of the all-time good guys. So that is, as they said, how I became a professional hockey fan. And he is, again, a reflection of how most guys his age, the girl the young lady I'm sitting across is basically the same way too. She is a hardcore Leaf fan, knows what she's talking about, and can relate to the turmoil and the torture sometimes that Leaf fans go through. And I thought it was pretty funny. He said, "I'm just assuming that Mitch Marner is going to be a part of this."